Chapter 2. The Starman and the Magnifying Spoon.
Just like you, I wanted to be a great athlete,
he said.
I wanted to play goalkeeper for my school soccer team. I wanted to be so tall that I could block the entire net just by stretching my arms and legs out to the four corners.
He winked at me.
I wanted to be famous.
Me too, I said. I leaned forward. For the first time, I was starting to enjoy myself at the Riverside retirement residence.
One spring night, many decades ago, I was sound asleep in my bed. All at once, I heard someone knocking at my window. My bedroom was in the attic of our old house, so I didn't often have someone knocking at my window. When I looked out, there was an elf staring in at me. He looked like he had escaped from a fairy tale. I opened the window, and he climbed into the room. He was not an elf. He was the tallest man I had ever seen. Even sitting on the floor, his head still almost touched the ceiling.
How did he get up to your attic window? I asked. Did he have a ladder? Mr. Johnson shook his head.
He was nearly as tall as our house, a real giant. Under one arm, he carried a carved wooden box. He passed it to me without saying a word. By that time, I was sure I was dreaming. But the box felt real, so I opened it. Inside, wrapped up in an old sports towel, I found the most unusual spoon I had ever seen. Its handle was silver, but it glowed, unlike any silver I had seen before. The bowl part of the spoon was a magnifying glass. You know what magnifying glasses do, don't you?
I nodded. They make things bigger, I said. Mr. Johnson smiled.
When the giant elf looked through it, his eye looked like the eye of a whale. It's kind of a fantastic story, don't you think, Matthew McDougall?
Wow, sir, I said. I sure do wish I could get my hands on a spoon like that. Was it a magic spoon? Did it help you grow? Mr. Johnson nodded. Slowly, he shuffled his bottom over to the edge of his bed. One of his long arms disappeared beneath the bed. When his hand reappeared, it was holding a small carved wooden box. Is that it? I jumped up out of my chair. Is that the magic spoon?
Shh! Shh!
Mr. Johnson held one long finger up to his lips.
We don't want to tell the whole world now, do we?
But how does it work? Is there a magic spell I have to say? I asked. How am I supposed to use it? Mr. Johnson nodded again. His eyes closed for a minute, and I thought he was going back to sleep. I shook his shoulder.
I'm thinking,
he said.
Just give me a minute.
Finally, he passed me the box and said,
Okay, here's what you must do. Put this box and the magnifying spoon into your backpack. For the next 27 days, you must use the magic spoon every single time you eat.
Well, that doesn't sound too difficult, I said. He held up one of his stop sign-sized hands.
There's more. For the entire 27 days, you must eat nothing other than Cheesy Man dinner every single meal. And only the yellow kind, not the white cheese noodles. Do you understand?
I nodded and licked my lips. I love Cheesy Man dinner! I used my sports broadcaster voice again. The athlete's choice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's the line on their television commercial that my mother really doesn't like. After 27 days, what happens then? I asked.
That I cannot tell you,
Mr. Johnson said.
I can tell you, though, that I became known among soccer players as the Starman shortly after my visit from the tall elf. People said I looked like a giant star when I spread my arms and legs wide to stop a goal. And I stopped a lot of goals. 599 in one season.
Wow! I said again. Mr. Johnson yawned into his blue pajama sleeve.
I'm feeling a little tired now. If you don't mind, I haven't talked this much in years.
The blue eyes popped open again.
Remember, this is top secret. Matthew McDougall, you must not tell anyone about the magnifying spoon. Simply use it for every meal, but don't mention the magic. Also, don't let anyone else touch it. Do you understand?
While I sat in my chair, nodding and rubbing the spoon, Mr. Johnson started snoring again. I covered his toes with his blue soccer ball blanket and put the spoon carefully back inside the box. Then I put them both inside my backpack. Summer vacation was almost over, and I had to go back to school the next day. Basketball tryouts were starting in 5 weeks. That's only 35 days. There should be just enough time for the spoon to work its magic for me.